A minister in the Sri Lankan government, DM Dasanayake, has died after a bomb attack on his car in the capital Colombo this evening. The bombing comes amid mounting fears that Sri Lanka could slide back into full-scale civil war after the government withdrew from its ceasefire with the LTTE, or Tamil Tigers, a few days ago. Earlier, I spoke to Dr.Palitha Kohona from the Sri Lankan Foreign Ministry, who's visiting Australia. Despite the ongoing attacks, he told me the government still wants to negotiate with the Tamil Tigers.
As the President has repeatedly said, we still hope that the Tamil Tigers, the LTTE, will return to the negotiating table, because our objective is to end this conflict in a peaceful manner so that there will be a sustainable and honorable peace for everybody living in this country.
Now, but by withdrawing officially from the ceasefire, aren't positions likely to become more polarized and make a negotiated settlement more difficult?
As things stood at the time we decided to terminate the ceasefire agreement, there was no ceasefire agreement. It was only a piece of paper. Since 2005, the LTTE launched what they themselves called Unceasing Waves Elam War 4. And they kept on attacking government positions, civilian buses, civilian concentrations, cities, etc. The ceasefire agreement was a fiction. And as an elected representative government, it was no longer possible for the government to maintain this fiction.
Now, there were violations of the ceasefire on both sides, but by officially withdrawing from the ceasefire, haven't you lost an important framework within which a negotiated settlement could be found?
It must be emphasized that even the Sri Lanka monitoring mission, which was established under the ceasefire agreement and manned by Norwegian peacekeepers, recorded over 5,700 violations by the LTTE, as opposed to something like 600 by government forces. So therefore, the violations were essentially committed, substantially committed by the LTTE. As for
but the Norwegian government has expressed great concern about Sri Lanka's withdrawal from the ceasefire and says it will lead to a further escalation of violence.
I can't imagine how much further it could escalate from the current level, when civilian buses are blasted by using claymore mines, where civilians are targeted with hand grenades, and government forces are attacked at random. I cannot imagine how much further it could escalate. And if, in fact, the current situation is such that the ceasefire agreement was simply a fiction, and it meant nothing to the average person on the ground.
Is the Sri Lankan government now planning a major offensive against the LTTE?
As I said before, the objective is to negotiate an end to this conflict. We know, everybody knows, that a conflict of this nature cannot be resolved through violence, cannot be resolved through armed force. We would hope, even at this late stage, that the leadership of the LTTE will return to the negotiating table.
Right, Dr. Palitha Kohona, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us on SBS.
Thank you indeed, Amrita.